You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show.
Hi,
Victoria.
Hey, Victoria's here.
Hi.
Yay.
It's always like a party when I come back. It makes me feel
I
good.
really know.
is.
It's
I
always
love
so
it.
fun.
Well, I'm going to get started on my topic for this week. As I was researching the episode a few weeks ago about the weird ancient sea creatures with trifold symmetry, you remember?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Also very hard to find a picture of. So thank you for that.
No doubt. Sorry. I'm not sure that finding a picture for this topic is going to be much easier for you, but yeah, so when I was researching that topic, I came across a little factoid on the Wikipedia page for the Ediacaran era, which I mentioned back then. So it mentioned that back in the Ediacaran era, the day was 21.9 hours long, and there were 400 days per year. 400 days per year. Yes.
Yeah, it hasn't always been the same.
It kind of blew my mind. I feel like
I think Rachel is like frozen with shock.
I'm a little okay. Kirk, you rolled with it like, oh yeah, of course, everyone knows this. I didn't know
of course
this.
Kirk knows this.
What? What do you mean?
I didn't know this either.
What do you mean the days were not always the same? And what?
Right? So
a top doesn't spin forever.
We take the length of day and the number of days per year kind of for granted, right?
Yeah.
We learn it as kids. It seems like fixed fact of life on our planet.
Oh.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Of course, once you get a little further in school, you might actually learn that a day is in fact 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds long, and a year is actually 365.24 days. And that is why we have leap years, in case you forgot. But a lot of people do forget that. And most people probably don't think about it that much, right? But as it turns out, yes, the length of a day has not stayed constant over Earth's history. And in fact, it has been getting longer and longer over billions of years.
Oh.
It really kind of broke my brain. And
my head hurts.
The first question is, how do we know that the day
that's a great question.
used to be longer?
Yeah.
Or shorter, I mean.
Well, especially since when you think about it, that's a hard thing to measure because you can't measure it by the amount of sunlight because we're already changing with the seasonality and some days are longer with sunlight than others. So how do you
That's a good point.
How?
Yes. Well, it's quite complicated and there are a lot of different sources
You don't say.
that people use for this information. We're going to have to make a few simplifications to make it easier to understand.
Okay.
So the first, which is not exactly correct, but we'll just go with it, is that the number of hours that it takes for the Earth to orbit the sun hasn't changed appreciably over time. Okay. So if you're able to find some rocks or fossils that put down some kind of layers on a periodic basis, you can extrapolate from that to figure out the number of hours per day or the number of days per year.
Okay.
Huh.
So I will give you some examples because that probably doesn't make any sense. So one example is that in certain areas there are sedimentary rocks from tidal flats.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see within the rocks the very fine layers of each single tide. And you can tell how many days there were per lunar month based on this. And from that, you can determine the number of hours per day.
That is so
hardcore.
precise.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. That somebody took some serious time to
that poor grad student.
I mean, it sounds just mind-numbing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another example, there are certain fossils of shelled animals, such as that they put down daily layers in their shells, kind of like if you think of a tree with tree rings, you can count the age of the tree by the number of years by looking at the rings. So this is like a layer per day.
Okay.
So, for example, there's this clam-like shell from about 80 million years ago. And by looking at, they could tell the daily variations, but then also yearly cycles. So they were able to determine that the animal had lived for 9 years and that each year had 372 days.
Huh.
Because there were 9 annual cycles, and then within each year there were 372 daily cycles. So this is like kind of crazy, amazing stuff that scientists have been able to figure out. But
I love that someone did that, though.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's fabulous.
So to kind of summarize the results of this, if you look back at all this evidence, if you go back about 1.4 billion years, days were about 18.7 hours long, and a year was nearly 500 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a long wait for your birthday.
We were spinning.
Yeah.
By 620 million years ago, days were 21.9 hours, and a year was 40 days long. Around 350 million years ago, their day was 23 hours, and the year was 385 days. And actually, even within recorded history, the day has gotten slightly longer because there are records of exactly where shadows from solar eclipses fell.
Oh.
And by comparing that to like the landmarks that still exist, the scribes recorded the shadows falling in places that they couldn't have fallen unless the days were a little shorter back then.
Huh.
That's what one of the websites
That is nuts.
That's wild.
I didn't dig into that any farther, which I probably should have.
Yeah,
but
that's fair. What?
Because I was just trying to like understand all of this stuff, which was a little difficult for me.
That's
okay. So this is happening because Earth's rotation is slowing. But why is Earth's rotation slowing? And it is thanks to our friendly companion, the moon, mainly.
Yeah, the moon.
Huh. Yeah. So as you probably know, our ocean tides are due to the moon's gravity. And actually, in planetary relationships like that, tidal forces can be a really big deal. So because the tidal pull from the moon makes the oceans bulge a little bit as the moon pulls on it, this slightly slows the rotational speed of the Earth. So if you've ever played on a playground merry-go-round, you may have experienced this yourself, or if you lean out, the rotation slows, and if you lean in and closer to the center, it speeds up.
Oh, yeah.
You can also see the same thing happening with
swings.
figure skaters. Oh, tire swings. Figure skaters, they'll pull in their arms and legs to spin faster, and they slow down by spreading them out. At the same time that the Earth is slowing, this energy has to go somewhere, right? And it actually accelerates the moon. And the friction this caused by this is also slowly causing the moon to orbit farther and farther from the Earth. About
I was hoping you were going to talk about that.
Yeah, so about 4 centimeters a year, 1.5 inches approximately.
Yeah.
So, back, millions of billions of years ago, the Earth and the moon were a lot closer. So the moon was bigger, which is
so cool.
It's so cool.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Like a big giant moon in the
like
sky.
A big
like
E.T. style giant moon.
Another reason we need that time machine working, you guys.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Totally. So this slowing rate of the Earth is making each day 1.8 milliseconds longer per century.
Okay.
And so just to sum up.
I gotta adjust my watch. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. I'm
Wait,
good.
hold on. Does this mean that the moon, like even from when we landed on it, that means that you said it was moving an inch a year? So it's what?
That's how we know, yes.
Inch to an inch and a half, yeah.
Inch and a half.
The Apollo mission put like little reflector targets on the moon that we like shoot lasers at. And that's how we know how far. Yes, exactly.
So it's moved it's moved probably a Rachel away from the Earth.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
yeah, probably about that.
About that. That's nuts. Okay,
That's
continue.
Wild.
Sorry.
Okay. So to just sum up to where we are so far, because of the moon's gravitational tidal forces on the Earth, days are getting longer, leading to fewer days per year. And also the moon is gradually getting farther away. So you might think this rate would be steady over time, but recent research actually indicates this is not so. So for one thing, the arrangement of the continents and oceans affects the size of the tidal bulge. And
brilliant. Yes.
That's relatively minor from what I can understand. For another thing, in addition to lunar tides, there are also solar tides, also known as atmospheric tides, which I had never heard of. These do not have to do with gravity, but with heat. So as the sun heats the atmosphere each day, the atmosphere where it's hitting expands, and this affects the Earth's rotation. But actually in the opposite direction from the moon. So it speeds up the Earth rather than slowing it down. So by carefully examining some of these very finely layered sedimentary rocks that also, in addition to recording, number of days per lunar year and so forth, they record the wobble and tilt of the Earth's axis. Scientists now believe that there was a period of about 1 billion years where the solar and lunar tidal forces more or less balanced each other out, and the day length pretty much stayed almost the same, around 19 hours. And this was from about 2 billion to 1 billion years ago, approximately. And even more interesting, the beginning and end of this period seem to kind of correlate with the two big increases in atmospheric oxygen in Earth's history. And so it's quite possible that there is some kind of interrelationship between life on Earth and how much oxygen that life is producing and how fast the Earth is spinning, which is just crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's
Yeah.
I don't really have any kind of big conclusion, but I saw that fact and I just went down the rabbit hole and I needed to talk about it.
I love those moments.
Yeah.
I love that we can like measure stuff this precisely now.
Yeah, it's
right?
amazing.
Like that's
really amazing.
And some people say, well, why bother? It's because we can.
Right.
Like that's an
why
awesome
bother?
enough reason.
Why
Like,
not? Is the better question. Why not? That's so fun.
Yeah. So my main sources this week were a June 2023 blog post from phys.org by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, July 2020 Earth Date blog post from the Bureau of Economic Geology at the University of Texas, and NASA. And we're going to take a little break here, and when we come back, it's going to be Kirk.
Hey, before we get back to the show, I wanted to mention something. We recently put the podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, we did.
And this is something
did.
We've been avoiding doing because it was really a big pain. But they've now automated the process. And now every episode will automatically start appearing over there. I don't suspect a lot of our listeners are going to switch where they're listening, but we're hoping it'll bring in some new audience members. Mm-hmm. I do have to give a shout out. I just did this in the dead of the night and I got the notification. Very quiet about it. And someone instantly found it. So Chloe found it and commented on a bunch of episodes and has been loving them. So Chloe, shout out to you. You were the first person to find it, first person to follow us on YouTube. That's awesome. So congratulations for being the first person to find our secret stuff. Don't keep it a secret though. Tell your friends if that's where they like to listen. We can now be found there. So it's kind of a fun thing. And get out there and check it out if that's your place of choice to listen to podcasts.
Thanks, Chloe.
Okay, so you know what we haven't talked about on the show yet, and it's pretty astounding.
What?
Many things.
I mean, lots of things, right? But
so many things.
The ostrich.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That has been on my. I've been thinking about this actually, because the ostrich, they're just like so big, and we know they're strange, but like they're not as strange as like cassowaries. But like, what?
I mean, now, you know that old question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, first off, I
Right.
think it's supposed to be one of those like unknowable questions, something that simply can't be puzzled out. But the answer is really simple. It's the eggs. Eggs predate chickens by literally millions and millions of years.
Yes.
And I was thinking about how amazing eggs are this week. I had some people over to watch Jurassic Park at my house
Yeah.
as part of to kind of kick off the summer, and I had to laugh because when they go into the dino lab and show the dinosaur eggs, because I'm a naturalist, I immediately recognized some of the eggs in the shots, and I was like, "Hold on, that's an ostrich egg." Clearly an ostrich egg. Not the close-up ones where like the velociraptors are hatching, but when they're kind of panning by some of the incubators, they're just full of ostrich eggs, which I got a kick out of. And it made me realize that we have not talked about the biggest bird on Earth on the show. So I want to rectify that this week and bring you the ostrich.
Woohoo!
So we're going to start in, you're welcome. We're going to start off with those eggs. Ostrich have the largest bird eggs in the world. They can weigh up to 2 kilograms.
What?
And their interior space can hold 1 liter of liquid.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's some giant.
That's a lot.
if you go to the store and get one of those like a dozen chicken eggs and you were
Uh-huh.
to crack them all open into a bowl, that would still not be enough. It actually takes 2 dozen chicken eggs to fill up
Oh,
one
wow.
large ostrich egg. That's
Oh my goodness.
how big of an
That's
egg
so
we're
much.
dealing with. 24 chicken eggs
That's
to one
a
ostrich egg.
that's a big egg.
It's
so
big.
big.
Yeah, it's big. Now these eggs are really big, but interestingly, compared to the size of the body size of the ostrich itself, they're actually one of the smallest eggs as compared to the size of the parent.
Oh,
right?
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So the eggs
I
are
mean,
actually, and there's gonna,
That would make sense. You still have to get the
yeah,
egg
because the birds
out
are so
of
big,
you.
right?
Yeah.
That's right, right? But like again, so if you were to take a chicken and blow it up to the size of an ostrich, its eggs would actually be bigger than an ostrich egg. The eggs of an ostrich are, now there can be some variation depending on the size of the ostrich, but about 1 to 4% the size of the female ostrich. And if you compare that to the kiwi, which Rachel, you talked about,
I did.
the
That
egg
is
of the
too large.
kiwi is 20% of the size of the female
Oh.
that lays it,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch.
which is
Honestly,
mind-blowing.
I've seen x-rays of a kiwi with an egg inside
Right,
of
right.
Oh,
it
It's just
before,
all egg.
and it is mostly egg, and I'm like, all I could think of was, how? What? That? Why?
Yeah. Now,
That
amazingly,
makes me
these are-
think of a female hyena pushing a baby out of
Oh
her.
gosh! Oh no!
pseudo-penis.
Gosh! No!
Oh.
No! Ugh, go back and listen to that episode,
The
people.
wet
That's a
spot
shocking
on the
one.
savannah.
That's what it was called. Yeah, it's one of our first episodes. So I say these eggs are huge, but they aren't the biggest ever. That actually belongs to a cousin of the kiwi. And spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about it on next week's show. So you just got to come back to find out what bird has a
Ooh.
bigger egg than an ostrich.
Oh my goodness.
So ostrich are amazing, but not just because of their eggs. So let's go through some of this. They are the largest living bird on Earth by a number of measures.
Mhm.
As a naturalist, I don't know if this happened to you guys ever, but I get asked once in a while, like, what's the biggest bird in the world? And it's actually kind of a tricky question because it depends on what you mean by biggest.
Yeah.
Like, do you
Right,
mean the
like-
tallest, the heaviest, the largest wingspan, the
Right,
longest
because
from
like
head
we
to
talked
tail?
about, I talked about the albatross just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Exactly. So there's lots of ways we can measure the biggest. And as you said, Rachel, you did just talk about the wandering albatross. And their wingspans can reach 11, maybe even 12 feet in the largest
2 Kirks.
individuals. 2 Kirks, that's right. They certainly outclass the ostrich, which is flightless and then doesn't have a whole lot of use for their wings.
Mm-mm.
I gotta say, though, I expected them to have like kind of stubby wings.
No.
They're not too shabby.
No.
Their wingspan is 6.5 feet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh
That
my
is
That's
bigger
the
than I
same as
expected.
that's the same as my wingspan.
Woo.
You can't see me stick my arms out. Like that's really big for a bird that doesn't fly. So that kind of
But
blew my mind.
still isn't big enough for them to fly.
No, they're way too heavy.
Mhm.
So they don't have the largest wingspan, but how about the other measures? So
Mhm.
ostrich are certainly the tallest. They can stand, and this, they can stand up to 9 feet tall.
No.
Oh.
Yes.
No.
9 feet, and that
That's-
number
No.
blew my mind.
That's
I've
too
seen
big.
ostriches
That's too
in
tall.
person.
Me too.
The place I used to see them is we had a zoo that I used to be able to walk to just from my old house.
Mhm.
And there was ostrich there. But
There
you
still
don't really
is.
realize the ostrich are like down in a pit, kind of like it's lowered down. So
Oh,
you're
yeah.
more kind of eye
Oh.
level with them. And it's just an
Oh.
amazing illusion. Same thing for it's a similar area where they have the giraffe. And you go,
Uh-huh.
well, they don't seem that big, but it's because you're standing above them, right?
Right.
And
Oh, no.
if an ostrich is actually in front of you, they can be 9 freaking feet tall.
No. So hold on. This means
that's
I
3
could
feet taller
potentially
than me.
ride an ostrich, right? That's almost 2 Rachels.
People have done that,
People
I think.
have, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. I
That
will say
sounds
the tallest
fun.
human ever recorded was Robert Pershing Wadlow, who measured in at 8 feet 11 inches. So
Mhm.
almost the same. But keep in mind, he was at the extreme end of what is possible in a human, whereas a
Yeah.
9-foot ostrich is, that's the biggest ones they get, but like it's not considered unusual. I did actually see some sources that list the height of the common ostrich as 9.2 feet when I was looking for different numbers. So I'm guessing some of the really large ones can maybe top 9 feet. They are for sure, absolutely the tallest bird. So what about weight? Right? There are some other hefty birds out there. We have trumpeter swans that nest at where I work. They have an 8-foot wingspan, so not too shabby. They can be a hefty 134 kilos, which is 30 pounds, which makes them like
Pretty.
really heavy
Mhm.
for a flying bird. Like
Yeah.
that is to get 30
Yep.
pounds up in the air. They're not the biggest. The South African Cory bustard can be 18 kilograms or 40 pounds. That's the heaviest flying bird. Again, not shabby, really
No.
impressive for a bird that can fly, but the ostrich, you guys, again, just crushes them all.
Oh.
Very large common ostrich can reach up to 156.8 kilograms. You guys, that's
Kilograms.
346 pounds.
Oh, that's a big bird. That is a
46.
big
That's not
bird.
that's
Oh,
not
no.
fitting in the oven for Thanksgiving, let me tell you.
Between
Now,
that and the
just let
height,
that
the
sink in.
ostrich is like 2 Rachels almost. It's like 2
Oh,
and
yeah.
3.
It's-
There's 1
it's
and
nuts.
3/4
Just let
Rachels.
that sink in.
My God.
Yeah. So to let that sink in for a minute, like a 346 pound, 9-foot tall bird that, oh, by the way, is also the fastest bird, at least
Uh-huh.
as far as running goes. They can run at 40 miles per hour or up to 64
Unnecessary.
kilometers per hour. Or,
If you're going to
so
be
that's like,
a large, heavy bird, do you really need to run? You just kick something and it's done.
I mean, yeah, I would, oof, wow.
God.
So that's
40
sprinting.
miles
That's
an
not
hour.
sustained running, but still. I think it's like 30 miles an hour if they're just like, just chilling.
Yeah.
So it's real fast.
That's a
But
jog.
those long legs.
God.
Long legs help, yeah. Everything about the ostrich is exceptional. So really when it comes to everything but wingspan, the common ostrich is the biggest bird in the world. So the exceptions would be like if you want qualifiers about biggest wingspan or largest flying bird. There's some other answers, but generally the answer to what's the biggest bird is the ostrich. You're pretty safe saying that.
Yeah.
Interestingly,
God.
I did find sort of there's some disagreement over how well they're doing in the wild. They're now only found in 6 out of the 18 countries where they were historically found. And one subspecies, the Arabian ostrich, actually went extinct in 1966. So there are some people calling ostriches like endangered or critically endangered, but the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, currently has them listed as a species of least concern, which is as far from endangered as you can possibly get. So I don't do with that information what you will. I don't know. Sort of depends on, I guess, your definitions. So that was it. I just wanted to talk about the ostrich. If you want to see the largest living dinosaur, go check one out. They're maybe live in your backyard. Maybe they live on farms. They might be living in the zoo. They are around. And I guess to bring the story full circle, birds technically are dinosaurs. So when they used ostrich eggs in the movie Jurassic Park, I mean, they were technically correct to use those because they were dinosaur eggs they were showing. So,
Kirk.
Right? It does make me wonder, though, why they used frogs instead of birds to fill in the missing DNA, like in the movie and the book. But,
people.
Look, Michael Crichton has proved again and again
Spoiler
that
alert.
he isn't much of a scientist. So
hey,
I
birds
guess
can do that too, Victoria. We've covered that.
And exactly. Birds can do that too. We talked about it on the show. So he didn't need to use frog DNA in his story. It would have worked with birds. There are birds that can change their sex. So astounding stuff. Anyways, ostriches, amazing. Check them out. That's what I got this week. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, Rachel's going to wrap things up for us.
Woo! All right, welcome back, everyone. So going into this week, I thought I would tackle a particular creature that's actually been on my list for about a year now. I wanted to do it justice and make sure I had all the resources that I could, because when I first dove into this particular topic, there wasn't a lot. And to be honest, there still isn't a ton of resources and knowledge about this species. They're still learning a lot because for reasons you'll find out. But I chose this. Oh, good.
Yeah.
So I chose this topic because it actually came up again recently in my life as a March Mammal Madness competitor, which callback. It came back, which, by the way, I have an update for all of you who may be wondering how I
won?
did. Well, the great white shark won overall. It went against the giant squid. But there's not always
remember, she
mammals
said it doesn't
attached.
have to be mammals.
It doesn't have to be mammals. There was also a plant. The copra lily went farther than it should have, which was wild. But it was outlasting. But the great white shark actually won over the giant squid. However, at my workplace, since it's a pretty big deal, we all make one. It becomes this big competition.
You make your own bracket, right?
You make your own bracket. And I won this year.
Woohoo!
I got a trophy.
Way to go, Rachel.
Thank you. I'm going to keep that for the next year. I have a trophy. And then as the winner, I also got a beaver skull. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Anyway, subtle flex. We're moving on. Today, as one of the competitors, it was a beautiful little thing, and we're going to talk about it. It's a little bitty caterpillar that is found in Australia. So Australians
Is it deadly?
Do some research. What?
Is it deadly?
No. Depends.
Mildly toxic?
Depends.
Well, we're going to get to talk about it. So
okay.
There we go.
This particular caterpillar, we've talked caterpillars before. We've talked about metamorphosis. We've talked about monarchs. So there's not a ton on that topic to really talk about. This particular caterpillar is a mottled cup caterpillar, or mottled cup moth. It turns into, and its adult form is nothing really special. It's creamish brown. It's dull. It's just kind of fuzzy, and it flies around, and it doesn't. It's fine. The caterpillar. The caterpillar, and this particular species, there's a number of species that have similar-ish mechanisms. There's a wattle cup caterpillar, actually, that looks similar, but is not within the same family. But it is a cup moth. It's wild. The one I'm talking about today is the Doratifera vulnerans.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a tiny 2-centimeter long caterpillar.
Oh, it's just a wee little thing.
It's so tiny. But it's beautiful. Generally, it has like this greenish background looking kind of like saddlebags. And the middle part of the body has like bands or spots on it that are white or with black outlines. There's some yellow, there's some red, orange, bright colors, okay?
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture right now, Rachel. They are gorgeous.
They're absolutely gorgeous. It's very cool. And then generally speaking, like the mottled cup caterpillar on either end will have these 4 like bigger protuberants who they kind of stick out. There's 4 of them on either end, both the head and the butt, and they kind of are there, but they're there for a reason. They are able to push out yellow spines of about 100 of them each. Okay, these are stinging hairs. So this little tiny caterpillar is covered in these little like spine spiky kind of deals, right?
Yeah, it does look spiky.
Beautiful, but super spiky. And anytime that it gets touched, those little yellow hairs or spines shoot out. Okay? They are able to retract them when they're calm and everything. But if you happen, right? That's wild. But if you happen to touch one of those hairs, well, it packs a punch.
Don't
do it.
Guessing it might sting a little bit.
The equivalence it's been given is if one touch of one of those hairs on like a person's skin, it feels like getting stung by 3 wasps at once.
No, thank you.
Now, is that, just to clarify, that's one hair or like touching one
cluster, like that general area?
Okay.
Because when you touch that little area or whatever, if you break one of the spines and it goes into your skin, or if you happen to be like a bird or something that's trying to eat the caterpillar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It secretes a venom. It breaks apart and secretes a venom, which is pretty strange because a recent paper from some researchers who actually published in our favorite work, PNAS, PNAS.
Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences.
Yes.
Why'd they choose that? There was other choices out
there. They did some research on the breakdown.
We are, in fact, 10 years old.
Yeah. They did research in the breakdown of the different types of toxins that could be like in this, and they broke down the venom of the mottled cup caterpillar. And there are over 151 different toxins in this venom.
Packs a punch.
Absolutely. It is, like I said, 151 different toxins. And some of them are not even, like, at least 59 of them, like, are in different families. They're not, like, necessarily all related to each other.
Wow.
And breaking down and identifying the different toxins within this venom, they were able to see that some actually have potential medical purposes from some toxins have been identified outside of this study, have been when there are like other animals that use similar toxins that is like antifungal. Some of them could even halt or prevent halt/stop some cancerous activities, which is pretty cool. Some are like antibacterial. It's absolutely wild. There's a wide variety of uses for the different toxins that this particular caterpillar just happens to produce in a very small amount in a very tiny caterpillar before it goes into a chrysalis and all of that.
Right.
Wild. Now,
nature is amazing.
Nature is so amazing. Now, how do they produce such varied venom? We don't know. They just kind of do. It's not something that they necessarily eat because when they are caterpillars, they're primarily eating like eucalyptus, which could help with some of that, but they also will live or like be laid on like guava or apricot tree leaves, and like they'll eat those too. So it has to be something that they are producing, not so much like something they ingest, like the monarch with the milkweed. So it's a wild time.
Sure. Gosh.
Right? So I didn't have a ton, but I wanted to make sure to talk about this. It's been catching my attention for over a year, and I wanted to finally talk about it. So it's a pretty short topic this week, but kind of fun. My sources this week were at the proceeding of the National Academy of Sciences. The paper that was done in 2021 was the production, composition, and mode of action of the painful defensive venom produced by a lima-coated caterpillar, Doratifera vulneraris, by Andrew Walker et al. That one is a really, really cool paper. It was really fun to be able to read. And then I also got some really fun stuff from the Australian Geographic and Wikipedia. I think
that is really cool.
Well, I think that's all we have this week. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.